Hi, everybody. I'm Sunny, and this is We Gotta Talk, a live weekly digital talk show and podcast where we like to dig deep. Real talk, big topics. Now, let's dig in. I cannot tell you guys how excited I am about today's episode. If you have a drip of Italian blood in your veins, you are going to love today's amazing guest. We are going to be talking with award-winning Italian-American cookbook author, host of the popular Cooking with Nonna series, which is at cookingwithnonna.com, a member of the Italian-American Power Hour podcast. She is the winner of the Food Network's 24-hour restaurant battle Italiano. She's an actress. And most importantly to you, me, and anyone else who loves all things Italian, she is a fellow Paisan. Rossella Rago, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's so cool to see you in person after following you on social.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for being nice that the last time didn't work out. I get it. Please,
girl, are you good? Is my concern. Are we good?
Fantastic.
Okay, good. I know. Listen, I am fully understanding of any situation that makes us need to just take a pause, and you're always on with working. So if you need a minute, we got your back. Your backstory is so fun. And I guess if anyone follows you on social, you'll see your focus is food, but there's so much more to what you put out there. And there's so much love and passion behind the content that you put out. And being a fellow Italian-American, was so drawn to your backstory. Your parents were born in Puglia. Your Nonna, which is your co-host on a lot of shows. I mean, just watching your relationship and you guys cooking together adds that just extra element of just warmth and amazingness. So I guess family is everything to you. It sort of goes without saying.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, family is my life, whether I want it to be or not. I don't really have a choice in that. They're just here. Yeah, I'm a first generation Italian American. My parents are both immigrants from the same village in Puglia. We come from a fishing village called Mola di Bari, and they immigrated to Brooklyn. My father in 1969, and then my mother in 1978, I want to say. And I'm still in Brooklyn, which is why you probably hear honking outside. I can't do anything about that.
It's okay.
We're in the wild here. And, my family kind of raised my brother and I in this microcosm of Mola di Bari in Bensonhurst, Brooklyn. For the longest time when I was little, I didn't know I was in America because Italian was my first language. We spoke it at home. I didn't speak English. I didn't learn English until I was 5, actually.
Oh my gosh, that's insane. Wait, now at school, or did you, a lot of immigrants and immigrants' children, learn it watching TV?
I guess by the time I went to Montessori school, I knew nothing. Absolutely nothing. I learned whatever. I knew very little words that my brother would come home, because he's 4 years older than me. So he would come home and teach me, curse words. And
it's always the first, those are the first Italian words that I learned. It's the opposite, all the swear words. So there you go. That's how you learn a language.
I learned how to give people the finger. I gave my Montessori school teacher the finger. That was a great conversation. And then in kindergarten, I was barely talking, so, and TV did teach me a lot. I mean, I grew up with learning about American families through Full House and Family Matters and Saved by the Bell.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Okay, wait, we have to talk about this, because there is a very specific Italian family stereotype. And I guess when you say something like Full House, there's also an American family stereotype. Where do those overlap and not? Because similarly to you, I mean, my grandparents were immigrants, so I had a little more buffer of American culture in me. And they actually did not want to teach us Italian, because they're you're American now, and we don't want to, which is a separate story. But what I found is that when you have that strong cultural tie, you almost identify with that more than, I watched Full House and I was these people are I'm not anything like these people. So where does it overlap, and where did it not, being raised truly from Italian parents?
So my whole life, I kind of always have felt that I was a little too Italian for Americans and a little too American for Italians. So, and most of my closest friends are first generation Italian Americans like myself, because we just grow up in a very different way. And we almost have to grow up faster than a lot of other kids because, with the language barrier, especially, you grow up like reading your parents' mail, making appointments for them. So it was very funny for me to see like these kids on these shows that were like shuttled everywhere to like now, American, that's very normal for us, that it's like kids do a million activities and they get like taken to swim class or whatever. But when I was little, it was like, oh, you want to go, I gotta pay for you to do dance.
Wait,
What are we
this
talking about? We didn't do American thing. We didn't have camp. Oh my God, summer camp. We didn't do summer camp. Summer camp was going back to Italy to Acambagna and learning how to catch lizards. And
oh my God, that sounds so much better for the record than actual summer camp here.
we didn't do these things. We didn't get to do a lot of this stuff. So and it was always interesting to see like a show like Full House where like the kids would get in trouble and they would get grounded. We didn't get grounded. I mean, we got
Smacked with a wooden spoon?
smacked up, but we didn't
Yeah.
have, it wasn't like one time I actually told my parents, like, I want to be grounded. How come you don't ground me like Danny Tanner, Vito? You know, he's like,
That's amazing.
you want to be grounded? What's a grounder? And I was like, you make me stay in my room.
And that's it. And you don't hit me. And you don't scream at me.
Like, what the hell you want from me? Stay in your room. I don't care.
Oh my God, it's hysterical. I was watching the video that you just posted. I don't know, I guess it was earlier this week with your mom and going through the Booster book and like how she's telling you like how much money for the weddings and blah, blah, blah. And there was one point where you go, stop yelling at me. And she goes, I'm not yelling. Like the story of every, I feel like Italian American's life. My husband came into my family and he's like, why are you always so angry? I was like, we're not angry. It's just how we talk. And
Yeah.
some of these stereotypes are true.
We're just like passionate about every little goddamn thing. Even things that do not require passion or a loud volume. Just
Was it really I know you did walk that line. You just talked about sort of feeling not American enough for Americans and not Italian enough for Italians. Did you like how did you find your way then? And what did your family say too? Because I think people are going in the opposite direction these days where parents are wanting now to connect their children more with their roots and their culture and their background. And how did they navigate that as parents? Like was it no, you are Italian. We're going to raise you here. I don't care what your American friends are doing. They're going to summer camps, blah, blah, blah. Or did they kind of let you blend both together?
I think like they wanted us to blend, but they also didn't care too much at the same time. Like they, if we came home and felt a certain kind of way or felt like we didn't fit in, they would try and make us blend in, when I would say like, oh, but all the American girls wear this stuff, because I wore like weird crap with Italian sayings all over.
Like what? Give me an example.
And it's funny because now I like sell that stuff, but like I would wear like I never had jeans when I was a little kid. I had like 18 different color leggings and stuff, stretchy pants, but I never had like Levi's jeans, like American jeans. I had like my mom would buy my clothes from this store in like the Hasidic Jewish neighborhood, ironically, because they had European stuff. They had imported Italian stuff, and she wanted beautiful imported things, and I wanted to look like Michelle Tanner. I didn't want to dress like frou like World War II.
So wait, what did the clothes look like that she was dressing you in?
A lot of frills, a lot of ruffles. And my mother's an actress and a writer and stuff, so she's very into drama, and she's very into like Baroque. She would have been great in like the court at Versailles. She would have loved that. If she could have put like a corset and a wig and a hoop skirt on every day, she would have loved it. My mother has like a evening gown collection. So anytime we went anywhere, it was like always like a velvet dress. My brother had we had the socks. All the Italian kids had these socks, these knee socks with like, they were like crocheted and they had little holes all over them. It looked like there were like little holes all over them. They were like, but then what would happen was like you would take them off at the end of the day and they were like tight. So then there were like these little holes all over your legs.
Oh my God.
We had these shoes that they would call them occhi di bue because it looked like, it's a weird translation. It's like the T strap and the two like, holes on it. like we were dressed like it was World War II. My brother always was a much prettier little girl than I was.
Oh my God.
Lenny
So,
Lenny was the pretty one when we were kids, and so like the dynamic here was like that he came first, and she really wanted a girl, so she would dress him very girly.
oh my
He
God.
got frilly collars, and he was also gorgeous. Like he was blonde. My brother, he had like your hair color, but he had she gave him like this bowl mushroom haircut, so he looked very pretty and frilly and ruffly. So they all thought that he was a girl.
Oh my God.
Came along, and I was like swarthy, but like at the same time bald because my hair wouldn't grow. So at the Italian prescription to a kid whose hair doesn't grow is to shave it.
Oh my God. Wait, as a kid, you had a bald head? I'm dying over here.
At 6 months, thank God I had earrings.
Oh
You
my
know,
God. Which is another thing. Everybody gets their ears pierced within the first 6 months, all the girls.
yeah, yeah, and but thank God because I had like identity crises at a very young because like at one they just shaved my head entirely
Did
bald.
it work? Did your hair grow back?
So my best friend is a hairdresser, and she's like, it does not actually work. There is no science to support this. All it's going to
Right.
do is traumatize your kid. Don't do it. And people still come to her and ask her to do it. So for me, they did it at one, and then they were like, oh shit, it's like not really working. And so at two, what did they do? They did it again. So I didn't
Wait,
have
stop.
hair, like little girl, like pretty hair until like my first communion.
Oh my God, which is a whole other thing when you're Italian American. Like this, the outfit that my mother put me in. We were at the tailor's. Her name was Silvana. We were at Silvana's every other week. She's like, we got to lift this hem. We got to add the lace. We got to get the diagonal cut. I was like, it was like my wedding. I was like, I look back now and I'm like, that feels excessive, but it was just very typical. Like for everyone that was raised how we were raised, it was like you said, it was an attention to detail. It's like my girl's going to look like this. It was the hairspray. It was a little bit of blush. It was like and now I have a daughter who's ready to make her communion in like a month. And I'm like, oh shit, I haven't even ordered a dress for her. I've like fully fallen from the flock.
That's a big today. It's like way different. I feel like it was more extra then, but now it's more extra. I can't decide which era of the communion is extra because like I had nieces at one point and like they were getting like Queen Helene or
Oh yeah, Queen Elizabeth.
she's like the Panina Tournay of communion. This woman. And it's like $2,000 for a communion dress now. And when I was growing up, again, I remember when I was growing up, my family didn't have a lot of money. So my mom schlepped me to the Jews in Borough Park, and they sold communion dresses, ironically, and they were very beautiful. They were very expensive. So I remember not being able to get an expensive communion dress from Borough Park, and my Nonna ended up making my communion dress for me. And I got to design it because that's actually what I wanted to do when I was little. And it looked like, a Barbie wedding gown. Like,
oh my God, I love it. She actually let you come up with the design.
I had poofy sleeve. I had
Yes.
it was a time. We're talking about like, I was born in 87. So 7 years after that, it was like, we're on the heels of Princess Diana.
Mhm.
I had poofy sleeves. I had the points at the sleeve.
Oh yeah, I had the gloves.
I wanted the point like a princess.
Yeah.
I wanted, what is that thing called? The point at the waist, like a bias.
Bias cut? I don't know. No, but I felt like bias was like the diagonal cut. I don't know any of this.
A point at your waist, at your hips.
Yeah.
Point. I had the poof in the skirt. I had all the. She made me a little pocketbook.
It's like it was like a little Nonna showing up. Like there was no like middle ground of like, and I joke like that. I mean, I wasn't even as close to that like first generation stuff, but old habits die hard. But even like, I don't know, everyone did things a little different, except the group of all the Italian girls that I grew up with, we all were like, it's like the same like level of torture from the dress to the hair to the you have to look a certain way to all of. I mean, it's just dying laughing because it's so real. Oh, and I was the one who would show up at lunch. All my friends had peanut butter and jelly, and I'd have thick bread from the bakery that my papa worked at, like for generations. They're like, you're gonna have Mancini's bread. We got a little mayo. We got a little fresh prosciutto for you. I'm like, Mom, this is embarrassing. Like, pack me some Smuckers. She's like, never.
Other trauma.
Oh
Like,
my god.
what can I even say? I mean, like, first of all, we didn't have lunch boxes because those were a waste of money. Like, you don't get a lunch box like the
What
other,
did you brown bag it?
or plastic bit. Like, we have a drawer full of bags.
Oh my god, to this day. Do you
You know,
still?
oh yeah, I
Do
can't.
you reuse your bags?
I I listen, I try to limit. I am very aware of the mental illness that is hereditary. So I very much try to, keep it at a level. You know,
Mhm.
like the difference between what's the difference between a generation? So Nonna's generation, when Nonna went to Italy for 6 months, once we cleaned out her basement apartment and we found 11 Century 21 shopping bags, the old with plastic handle. And do you know what was inside them?
More bags.
More bags.
I knew it.
So we threw
I
them
knew
all
it.
out. We let her keep one. She was furious,
Ah.
right? So that's Nonna's generation. Then we go to my mother. My mother's not as bad. She's not 11th century 21 shopping bags bad, but she is bad where like the drawer is literally bursting open and she still has to keep shoving them in there. And she is attached to every bag. There's like Nonna was a little more discerning. She's like, this is a good bag. This is like a 5 points. It's got
Oh
a
my
hint.
god.
She inspects. My mother will keep any bag, like the bag from the Wonder Bread. That's what I would bring to school. That's what I got to put my lunch in because it's still good,
Oh
right?
my
And my
god.
lunches were like you had Nutella sandwich, which was you had to put
Back then, that was exotic, like, no one had Nutella back then.
nobody had that, but like they would make fun of you. Like I went to a very Italian American school, and they still kind of like some of the kids who didn't understand still mocked me. And
Mhm.
then we had tuna fish day, and when it was tuna fish day, that meant your entire lunch was just going to be covered in tuna oil. The fruit
And it
and
smells bad when you open it up?
the bag was wet, was always wet. It was just
Oh my
like everything in that anything for lunch was going to be tuna flavored, no matter what it was. You got an apple, it was a tuna flavored apple. Then we had chicken cutlet day, which I really did like, except my mother would try to be like American sometimes. So we had the leftover chicken cutlet, and she would smear mayonnaise on Wonder Bread and then put iceberg lettuce, and then the cutlet, and then another thing of Wonder Bread. So what would happen? Then she would saran wrap it so much that the Wonder Bread became another layer of the cutlet. It would just like
It was like a panini,
it
like a plastic panini.
no, it would mold
Oh,
exactly
and mold to
to
it.
the cutlet. So it would just you would unwrap it, and it wasn't a sandwich. It was like there was another layer of breading.
Oh, wait, how did she hop on the Wonder Bread train? Like, I didn't eat sliced bread until I was probably in high school, and it was only because I was like I finally tried peanut butter and jelly in high school. I'm like, I gotta know what this is all about, but because I brought it in, like, how did she, relent on, like, that kind of stuff?
She would like, it was a give and take. We would negotiate.
Oh,
It's like the
so funny.
SpaghettiOs were always a no. That was never going to happen.
Mhm.
We were the last family to have cable. We were the last family with a Costco membership. My best friend was Italian American like me from the same village, but her dad had been in America longer. So he was a little bit more American, and he like let them do all the Metagon things. Like they went to Disney every year. We went one time, and then my dad was trying to pass off like this little Six Flags amusement park. He's like, "This is Disney World. What are you talking about?" And we would try and be like, "Disney's in Florida." And he's like, "It's a dream."
So
You know,
sick.
they got a Costco membership, and then that was it. Then we were spending every weekend there. Because they had a microwave. We didn't have a micro. We still don't have a microwave.
But
I
I
never.
feel like that's actually a good decision health-wise.
Yes, but like when you're a kid and all you are dreaming about is the kids' cuisine microwavable dinner
Oh,
with
yeah.
remember the shitty brownie? I
Oh, yeah. Oh my god, yes.
for that
We were
shit.
not allowed to buy them. I'd be like, "Mom," I would see the commercials. I mean, I'm older than you. I was born in '81, but still I'd be like, "Mom, there's this thing called Kids Cuisine," or, what was I can't remember the name of the other one, but, like, she would literally buy them, like, once every 6 months, so my sister and I would have to make them during, like, watching TV time on our own before dinner if we wanted to eat them because there was just no way. It just never made its way into, like, the regular family.
even like things like for Thanksgiving, like Italian thing, the way Italian Americans, first generation Italian Americans do Thanksgiving is totally insane.
Like how? What are they doing instead of the turkey and the fixings?
Well, you have to have like basically a Sunday dinner before the turkey, you
That's
know.
so
And my father hates turkey. So purposely, and if he's the kind of like if he doesn't like it, nobody's allowed to like it. He
Oh
gets
my god.
that like
Wait, so let me ask you this, is it a patriarchy or a matriarchy in your family, like with your parents?
definitely a matriarchy, but that goes
Mm,
back to, you know, if I always say like to know who you are, you have to know where you came from. So when I look back at like the synchronicity of the way my life has worked out, it makes complete sense because I come from a legacy of boss babe bitches. If you look at it, we are not lucky in love, the women of my whole thing, because my great grandmother Regina, I'm Rossella Regina, so I was named after her. My name was supposed to be Pasqua though.
ooh, it's so old school, but I kinda like it. What's old is new, boo. I mean, if it was not that your face right now, it's not that bad, Pasqua.
Pasqua, Pasqua.
Okay, it's actually not great. It's not great if you're living in America, you're right.
It's not sexy. Well, it
Pasqua.
would have been Pasquatina or Pasqualina and then Lena, you know, but whatever.
Okay. Oh,
So,
that's so
so
funny.
my great grandmother Regina was widowed very early in her life with 7 children,
Wow.
and you know, in the 40s in southern Italy, you know, your options
Mm,
are not wonderful, but she really never let that stop her. She became one of the first women in Body to have vines, like grapevines to sell grapes. She was one of the only women that like had the balls to like take a horse and buggy
mm.
herself places.
Wow.
It was like a very not the greatest thing to not the easiest thing to do. And then she started after my great grandfather died, she started a bottega called which was a like a little general store on the main street in Body. And my nonna, who's the oldest of those 7 children, dropped out of school in 3rd grade. But in Italy at that time, you only really had to go to third. You only had to go to 5th grade.
Mhm.
You know, if you went to 5th grade, anything above 5th grade was higher education.
Mhm.
She left in 3rd grade, and she became like the cook for her siblings, and then my aunt Rosa, who's the second oldest, became the cleaner. So my nonna would cook, Rosa would clean, and help manage all these other children, and then work in the bottega whenever they could. All the rest of the girls, because there were 4 girls and 3 boys. The boys are all a disaster.
Oh, wait, what do you mean? Okay, we have to talk about the stereotype of the or the Italian man too, because I feel like, but anyway, we'll get to that.
But it
But
makes sense because my image of the Italian man, judging by the men in my family, like they ain't shit. Like they didn't do anything.
do they really get spoiled? I have a really great friend from Italy, and we laugh about this all the time. She's like, "You don't." My mom would say, "Find a nice Italian guy." Like we're all. If I said, "Mom, there is no one," and we're like a couple generations into. I said, "There's nothing left out there, boo. Like we have tapped it. I had to go to a Hungarian man to get like, but not to say anything bad, but like." Everything I hear, and this is only coming from people who have experience with men in Italy, they say it's the tied to the apron strings, it's the everything is done for them. Is that true?
So do I? Is it true for everyone? Listen, my brother's an Italian man, an Italian American man, but he's basically a Jew. Like I mean, my brother is not. You know, he and I could not be more different in this. I'm Miss Italy. I did the beauty pageants and I was all in the community. He wanted nothing to do with it. My brother is a husband first, a son.
A loyal king. We love it to his wife.
He moved to Canada
What?
and
That feels sacrilege, Rosella.
not close Canada, very far Canada.
Oh my
There is no more Canada left.
God.
Went to like the Staten Island of Canada. He went to Vancouver Island.
uh,
Vancouver was his
literally the farthest west.
That's it.
Oh my God,
That's it.
that's
For a
so funny.
woman who he treats like a queen and he like
I
totally
love that.
it's great. Yeah. But my mother was never the overbearing Italian mama like that either. I think because she was such like she had so many other interests too that
Mhm.
her interests weren't didn't live and die with her children.
Right, that's so smart. Yeah, that's really good. I wonder why that stereotype persists though. Literally every time I talk to someone and they're
Oh,
like,
they're
"You
there.
don't get it."
No, they're out there. They're it's
Out of a group, let's put it this way, out of a group of 10 Italian men, how many of those men are the type of guy you wanna bring home? Like, good partner, stable job, not gonna run to his mom. I mean, like, listen, I want my son to call me. I feel like such a hypocrite because I have a son and it's my worst nightmare if he wouldn't call me every day to check in. But I, like, can't put that into the universe because then I feel like I'm gonna get bad karma back. But, like, of those 10 Italian men, how many are, like, the kind of guy you actually want?
oh god.
Like
Th
2?
that I want I'm a weirdo. I that I want, probably none of them. I don't, yeah, I think it's all men, though. I don't think it's fair to say Italian men. I think
Right.
we're in a generation of that rejects traditional masculinity, that rejects, like, the masculine man. Like, if you
Which I hate.
scroll through TikTok and Instagram, and everything is content about how to meet a high value masculine provider man, because we expect 150% more from women today than we did 50 years ago.
Mhm. But
Uh,
where's the standard for the upping of the standards for men? Is that what you're saying?
but then it's like, but it became, because all these girls went to college, they got very educated, we all became boss babes, it's great, and then men feel like they don't have to do anything.
Okay, wait, pause. I have to get your thoughts on this. So where do you stand? Because I, for one, I think there's some truth to the necessity for that, like, sort of polarity. Like, I like the masculine energy. I want someone who's going to bring something to the table. But, like, are you telling me it's just not out there anymore, or like men are different these days, like regardless of their background?
I think men are different, but I think it's might be an unpopular opinion. I think women made them that way. We made it too easy.
Please, let's talk more. You know what? It might be true. I mean, we're out there working, we're out there trying to provide for our families. And listen, I went through a big journey with this too. So I understand what it's like to be working full time, to be chasing a passion, but also to have a partner and realize it was a real big revelation that I could not do it all or have it all. And I felt shame for that. Like, same thing, like I was the first one to go to college in my family. They were like, if you don't go to college, this is what you do. Your grandfather quit in 6th grade, this is what you do. You get an education. So I did what I was told to do. And then I realized, oh my God, I can't take care of anything at home because I'm out there. It was just a real wake up call for me to, like, try to figure out that balance because I do feel like so much is put on women these days.
It's the biggest, one of the biggest lies that we've told women in the 21st century, is that they can have it all. You can't have it all. You can, maybe you can, definitely not all at once.
Nope.
And I don't think we should be pushed to, because like women, if they want to be feminine women, we I a woman is at her best when she feels fully supported, and that's where, like, all that mothering energy can come from. And it's like, and it's when you're a stressed out boss babe, it's hard to be a feminine wife. And there's all kinds of stuff why people would hate what I just said anyway, like, oh, feminine, what? Yeah, okay, like, if you believe in traditional gender role and traditional marriages and stuff, you have to be a boss babe at work, and then you got to turn it off.
I know it's so hard. It really is. It's like you got to. I listen. I'm completely in understanding what you're saying, and I really, as I'm raising daughters, and kind of struggling to define for them how they should proceed. Yes, of course, they need an education, and they do need to have the ability to provide for themselves without the help of a man or a partner. But I agree with you. I feel like we've gotten to a spot where it becomes, if that's what you want, is a traditional relationship where there's two people and one does family things and one does providing things. You kind of have to, you got to talk about this stuff beforehand, is I guess what I'm trying to say. Like, you can't do it all. And I wish someone would have told me that. I really do, before I had kids, because I had to unlearn a lot of, like, nose to the grindstone work habits because I thought that that's what I had to do forever.
I think, like, I think we don't teach women about receiving anymore. Like, we teach them, you have to have everything, your own everything. You
Mhm.
know, don't take nothing from nobody. You don't need no man. You don't need nobody to give you anything. And why do we do that? What isn't it night? And now we went so far that it's like guys don't want to take you out to dinner anymore. Great.
Is it like is it
You know?
that but are you currently partnered up or are you on the market on the market?
Actually recently divorced. So I
Oh,
have an interesting point of view on all of this. I'm not like thoroughly comfortable talking. I'm not really ready to talk about all of
mm,
it yet, but I date now and it's definitely interesting. You know, it's interesting to see what people, you know, cuz the last time I dated was 8 years ago.
yeah. It's changed, huh? I've friends that are single who are saying the same thing. It's just a little it's different, like, the product is different out
But I
there.
don't blame men necessarily. Men are conditioned to take the easiest path, the path of least resistance, and we made it that way. It's
Yeah.
women saying, "Okay, you don't have to do that." It's women lowering their standards.
What does your mom say? What's the Italian mom advice for this?
I want to know. My mom, you know, I'm glad that I do have kind of a more modern kind of mom. Um, but she just, you know, tells me to be happy and not settle,
Mhm.
you know, because
Sandals high.
I think every woman should not settle. You know, it's you know, you don't lower your standards. And you can't change a man. So like instead of if a man doesn't change, you change the man, you
Yeah.
know?
You can't change anyone. Yeah, it's true.
And you know, women deserve like to be treated softly and you know, because women to me, women are still women and like feminine women deserve to be treated softly and nicely and you know, not so it feels so transactional now in
Yeah.
society.
Yeah, I've taken a swipe or two through some of my sister's, like or people that I know's, like, profiles, and I'm like, "Hmm."
They're on there, they're holding large fishes, and I'm like, you know, 'cause I don't do that. I can't. I just it's not for me. But like I've seen it, I'm like, what is this supposed? Is this supposed to mean like you're a hunter
I
gatherer?
think it is. I think it's, like, caveman vibes that they wanna project. I
Like
think so.
feed me in the wild, manual fish. I
That's
don't.
too much. Okay, speaking of fish, I wanna talk about Puglia. I wanna talk about parts in Italy that you have been or have vacation to or spent time with your family in because, I still think it's the most people look at Italy as like the most desired location for trips or for honeymoons or for whatever. And everyone's always like, there's just so many options. Like, where do we book? Like, how do we start? So, if you were advising someone who wanted to visit the beautiful country of Italy, where would you have them start? What are some places and regions that you would have them check out first?
For the first time ever.
First
Like
time ever.
well, first time ever, you know, it's not going to be the sexiest answer here, but I would first time ever. You've never been to Italy, take like a tour, a Perillo tour. Like you know, I used to do culinary tours, but they were more for people who had kind of already been to Italy. I did have some first time visitors, you know, and it was so beautiful to be able to see how Italy changes them, you know, in a week. But
It's insane. Yeah.
if it's your first time in Italy and you don't know where you like and you want to figure it out, I would go on one of those big bus tours, or they have fancier ones now, but the ones where you can really see, you know, 10 cities in 10 days or like
Mhm.
10 cities in 14 days or something, because that's really the best way to see everything in a very short amount of time. You're never going to plan that on your own. So,
Right.
like, no matter how much you think you will, you won't. It's exhausting. You're moving every 2 days or so, but that's the only way that you're going to see so much of Italy in a short amount of time. And then you really can figure out, I like this place. I like this place. I would go back to here and there. I wouldn't go back to here. This was the way I didn't like the food here. You know, like that's really the best way for me to gauge, you know, and that's what I did because I went to Italy every single summer since I was 7 years old, but I wasn't allowed to leave my town until I was 18.
Mm.
They never took me anywhere. Like, so when I turned 18, I did a tour with my graduating class, and we went like all over. I think it was 10 days, and it was amazing because I'd never been to Rome or Florence or Venice or anything, and it was so cool to be able to see all that, and I never would have saw all that and I go to Italy all the time,
Mhm.
if it wasn't for that experience. And I learned, I love Florence, and I don't really like Venice that much, and I don't, and it was really eye-opening for me. And I think that's why I was able to start, my tour company later on, because I did have that experience and I got to see how it was structured.
What do you love about Puglia? That was an area that was recommended to us. We're going to go this summer for a few weeks to visit because I heard it was family friendly. It's by the
Yeah.
water. Like, what do you love, and what's some recommendations you have in that area?
So I remember Puglia when nobody knew about it, like before Instagram and stuff. And I would, when I was, 17, 18, I would go to Polignano a Mare, which is 5 minutes from where I'm from in Mola di Bari, and nobody was there. Like that beautiful town with between the cliffs and stuff. It was
Oh,
a ghost town. Nobody was there. I love that Puglia is still somewhat not tour. It's very touristy now. It has become very touristy, but I love that it's still sort of untouched. It's still rustic. They're learning a lot about hospitality. They're not 100% yet. There's still something left to be desired, but it's still like you're gonna get the real Italy experience in Puglia versus the Amalfi Coast, where it's kind of like the Disney Italy experience.
that was where we went. It was our first trip last year, and we haven't been able. I've never was able to go growing up, and we started with Rome and Positano just to like, and I have never. And you're right, it was a curated experience. Like you could tell that they cater to everything like tourism. Rosella, I literally cried, and this isn't me like being dramatic or like when I had to leave. I have never felt
I believe
more. Oh my god! And the food, everything was so familiar too. The people felt like where I grew up, and the energy. I was so much more moved by that experience than I have ever anticipated being. It was insane. It was a life-changing trip. And I know that sounds like, oh, of course it was. It was like a luxury hotel, but the landscape and the people and the food, it's transformative. Like, what is it about Italy and Italians that people all over the world love so much?
I've seen it happen firsthand, because when you guide culinary tours, I saw a woman come on our culinary tour who had, I think she had lupus or or something, and she could like barely walk. She was like very heavy and stuff. She was walking with a cane when she got there, and by the end of the week, she was like walking up this like almost
That's
90-degree angle driveway, like with no foot, like she was like with pep in her step. I've seen it really transform people. It's just the air. It's just like, even if you're not Italian, not Italian by blood or culturally or anything, I've seen it just change people. Just the food and the water and the breeze and stuff. It just galvanizes you in a way that nothing else does. Like
mhm.
when I know I'm feeling like the burnout, when I'm feeling, some sort of way, like the prescription. And Italians are famous for these like nonsense prescriptions for things. Like back in the day, we used to believe like if you had like pneumonia, you needed like to spend a week at the beach so the sun could dry up the water in your lungs. Like,
I feel like that works. So it's the salt in the air too, right?
yeah, I mean, but like when you have New York, like as a New Yorker, when we get burnout, the best thing is to go to Italy and to stay there for like a month and with crappy Wi-Fi, because after a week you just don't care.
Mm.
You can
What would you ever move back, or are you like not move back? I know you never technically lived there, but would you ever move there full time?
no,
Why?
because it's beautiful, but nothing works.
Like what? Don't say this because my dream is to eventually have enough money to like buy a villa there. What doesn't work specifically?
I mean, it's beautiful and you will be very happy, but like, what doesn't work? Oh, Maron, in the South, nothing works. Like, if you got to go to the bank, that's a 2-day process.
Wait, why? Is it the people? Is it
Oh
like
my
what is it?
god! Like you got to watch Joe Avati. Is this Italo-Australian comedian? He's from Calabria, and he does amazing skits on all this kind of stuff. Things like the post office or the bank. Like it's just a process. You get there, there's a line. Then by the time you're the next person in line, they close for siesta. Then it's like come back in 4 hours. Then you're back. It's 5. It's supposed to open at 5, maybe 5:15. They open. Maybe, maybe. And like it's just all like there's no air
Yeah.
conditioning. The in the summertime, like the shops in my town, like they close all the lights and they shut the air conditioning off, and they'll only turn them on when somebody comes in the store.
Stop.
They'll be like, it's too hot for lights.
Wait, so this is all very eye-opening. It's so, like, tempting to romanticize it, but, like, you saying this is, like, giving me pause.
You have to plan for it because, like, in every town, like in my town,
Sorry, I'm the only person left in America with a landline. I'm gonna shut this off.
it.
A telemarketer.
Oh,
It would be. It's typically my mom. I'm like, Mom, don't you know that I do this every week at the same time? It's not her. Sorry about that. Anyway, go ahead.
no, like in my town, all the stores close one extra day a week. Most things are closed on Sundays, but then they'll close one extra day a week. Like on Thursdays, everything in my town is closed. So you have to food shop on now there's like one now they're getting American. So now there's one supermarket that will stay open.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have all the stuff that you want, so you got to plan. You got to go to the butcher, the dairy, the all the day before. You got to plan different. You just have to plan your life different. We're so used to in America everything is available all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and in southern Italy, no, it is not.
And you know what I'm also just learning about, which was really revelatory to me. I've taken Italian lessons for 3 years now. I'm learning the language. I'm getting there. I'm learning. I know I've always known about my family's backstory and roots, but my friends are explaining to me the difference in culture between southern Italy and northern Italy. And all my family is from southern Sicilia, Calabria. I mean, like even Matera, like all these places that are considered in the South. And I didn't know that they looked at us Southern Italians as like country bumpkins and like it's not favorable. And I have to say, my heart was hurt a little bit, Rossella.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, I've been a very proud Southerner my entire life, and I wasn't fully aware, Sonny, until later in life about how Northern Italy viewed people like me, and it wasn't. My father worked for an Italian company. He's an engineer, a telecommunications engineer for Telecom Italia, and he would go to Italy back and forth a few times a year, and he had business partners in Rome. And Romans are like on the cusp; they're like kind of southern, but they're not. But I never encountered. I'm gonna call it like racism because I don't have a better. Frankly, I don't have a better word for it. There is legitimate racism in between northern and southern Italy, or if there's a better word, don't come for me because I don't know it. But what I experienced, I think I was about in my early 20s, and I went to a restaurant in Brooklyn, and not in sexy Brooklyn or anything. It was like Bushwick, and there was this waitress there. My friend was owned the restaurant, and he had hired a waitress from Bologna. And I was talking to her, and I was telling her where my family. I was like, "Oh, my family is from Puglia," and she goes, "Don't repeat that." And I'm like, "Oh," and she's like, "I'm from Bologna. It's in the north of Italy. You know where it is?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know where it is. I have a BA in Italian literature. I know the map. I know what it looks like." And then when I was getting older and going to Italy a lot, and I was traveling outside of Puglia, was when I realized that I have an accent. And I have an accent when I speak English, and I have an accent, a very strong Pugliese accent when I speak Italian. And I didn't know that. I really didn't understand that. But it is like when, people who live in Texas have a Southern accent. I have a very Southern accent. And I would ask them, "Oh, do you hear my American accent when I speak Italian?" They're like, "No, but we hear that Puglia accent real hard."
Oh my God, I feel like that's rude.
I'm like, "Wait a minute, that's bad." And then I learned about all the things that they call us. They call us terroni. So a terrona,
Of the land or
dirt people.
dirt people, yeah.
Yeah, because we're farmer in the South. We're farmers, and we're in it's all agricultural business. So I did, and I would meet some people from the north, from Milan or whatever, that I noticed that they were treating me differently and I didn't understand why. And then it's like, for me, it's such a complicated feeling because I'm an American, I'm an Italian. I was born in America, but to Italians, I'm a Terrona. Like,
That's
I'm a fancy New Yorker, but like to these people, it doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter how educated you are, and they just they tend to view you with this
mhm.
provincial lens, and they kind of think that you can't be more. It is like someone being from like a wasp from Massachusetts looking
Mhm.
at someone who lives in Alabama.
Yeah, it's so and it was really disappointing too because, being raised here and really clinging to the traditions that came over with my family, I'm so proud. I'm proud of having more culture than the rest of my white friends and having the food and the tradition and the family tie-ins. And there's so many beautiful elements to Italian culture. But it was like it was a real wounding experience to find out like how my people were viewed and treated. And I knew this growing up because I remember my grandfather telling stories just very like you said, they had a date farm in a tiny village, and and he came over and he looked different than everyone here. And I remember hearing stories. I was like, you know, it sounded bad, but like, who cares? But then you hear that and you're like, it's like kind of disappointing. It really tarnishes the way that I was viewing my family's legacy. But you can't let it get to you, I
No,
guess.
listen, it's actually it's not the easiest thing to be an Italian American today. I actually doing what I do, I encounter a lot of um just nastiness from Italians who live in Italy who have a problem with me as an Italian American. Like
Why?
the food I make isn't Italian, isn't real Italian. It's not Italian enough. I'm not Italian enough. Like it's like they'll see videos of me making fresh pasta with no, you don't know how to cook. You don't know how to speak Italian. I'll speak Italian, but I don't know how to speak Italian. You'll never be Italian enough for them. And the reason I think is because Italians who came here in the last wave of immigration in the 70s and 80s really preserved the values of that time. And in the past 40, 50 years, Italy has changed exponentially, especially southern Italy, which was, you're talking about a very Catholic country that is now rejects any kinds of tradition, any kind of traditional gender roles and stuff. It's a very woke country now. So
Wow, I didn't know that. So things have changed on the cultural front in Italy too.
absolutely. I mean, like, and they tend to view Italian Americans, North or South, they kind of just lump us all together. We're like Italian Americans, and they just view us as these like, country bumpkin. Even if you're from Milan, but there are so many more Southern Italian Americans here than anything.
Mhm.
They just view us as these people who are obsessed with, the way the old Italy and stuff, and they don't take us very seriously. And it's just what upsets me about it culinary wise is that I could make, like, if you take me and an Italian blogger and make us both make the same thing, and we'll both make some like schivats, like lasagna with Philadelphia. They love cream cheese over there now.
What?
Love it. They're
Stop it.
We'll both make this horrifying lasagna with cream cheese in it. And they'll say the Italian blogger is like innovative and amazing, and I'm a disgrace and should be like shot.
That's
I it,
awful.
it's just it is what it is. It ain't easy, but I don't stop doing what I'm doing for anyone. I
Mhm.
don't. I just keep it all moving.
Well, listen, and for someone like me, seeing someone like you on your platform and sort of helping to shed light on these beautiful traditions and recipes that a lot of us in this country grew up with, I'm grateful, and I have sympathy for you. Like you say, kind of straddle the cultures between American and Italian. I think just like other cultures, when people are from two different places or their parents are from two different places, that you like sort of unifying those two cultures is beautiful, because you're the type of person who, as an American, I'm going to relate to more and understand more. That's going to help bridge that gap for me to, connect with my roots or whatever. I think it's awesome. And I'm sorry that you get a little flack for it, but you
I mean,
can't make an Italian person happy, I guess.
it's interesting that you say that. Yeah, I mean, my best friend Pat on the Italian American podcast always says,
Mhm.
"How do you unite a people who can't agree on a meatball recipe?" Why we'll never be united. But like, as far as me doing what I do and how I do it, it has been a journey, for me to even exist the way I do now, because I didn't used to. I'm a lot. I'm probably a little bit extra, even as an Italian. I mean, but I wasn't always this way. Like when I started cooking with Nonna back in 2009, I didn't know what I was doing. It was the dawn of content creation. If you were cooking on TV or YouTube, barely anybody was on YouTube at that time. If you were,
Mhm.
you were a restaurant chef or a professional chef, and if you were on TV, forget about it. They didn't look like me. They
Mhm.
didn't look like me. They didn't sound like me. So I made an effort then to change, and I changed the way I talked, and I changed the way I dressed, and I changed a lot of my mannerisms because I wanted to assimilate. And what an interesting story. It's like I was brought up to be, this Italian American. My family never really assimilated if you meet us. And now, when I'm 22 years old, I'm trying desperately to look like and sound like somebody on Food Network. And I hid my voice for a long time. I talked like this. I can talk like this if I really want to. Isn't it great?
It's That's like your newscaster voice.
Yeah, I can do it. I problem at all. But I really talk like this. So agents and managers told me nobody was going to watch the Marissa Tomei cooking show, and I made my nails really short and pink, and I wore sweaters and just shit that I didn't like, and I because I was just trying to fit in. And then one day it was, I just decided I'm just gonna be exactly who the hell I am,
Mhm.
sound like what I sound like, and with a nail polish I like. And people are either going to relate to me, or it'll be a disaster and I have to do something else. But luckily, I think, and I get a lot of flack even for the way that I speak. They're like, you say friggin' and you say this and you say that. And I'm like, okay, I'm still a smart person. I'm still a published author. Like those things don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Mhm.
No, you can be who you are and still like not take yourself seriously, but be a serious person.
Yeah, the world has a problem with that with women. I think the same thing. Like, I talk about all this superficial stuff all the time, and also some very heavy, serious things on my podcast. And the desire for people to reduce women to stereotypes is so strong that the moment you shift back into something frivolous or fun, they're like, "What an airhead," or like, "What an idiot," or like, "What do
Yeah,
you
like,
know?" And you're like, it's impossible to exist and make everyone happy. So kudos to you for you have to lean into who you are. You can't spend your whole life hiding what
you
you
have
like
to.
and
And
all
I think
that.
there is probably a generation of, I know that there is, because they write to me, of young women maybe who grew up the way I did, or that have an accent, and that feel like they're represented a little
Mhm.
bit, because there are girls from my neighborhood who never got to had the opportunities that I did.
Mhm.
I've been very fortunate in my life because I had very supportive parents who never told me once to be realistic about anything. If I had a stupid dream, they made it bigger and stupider for me.
That's awesome.
It's great. But a lot of girls who probably had the same desires that I did had parents that said, no, you have to go get a city job, and
Mhm.
you have to get married young, and all that. So I'm proud to be out there for them to say, you can you can sound like this and have a place in our culture and in society, and you could still, don't let it stop you. Don't be ashamed, and be exactly as extra as you want to be, and still create.
I love it. I love it. Before we let you go, I really want to just spend a couple of minutes running through some of your favorites as far as recipes and food go. If you guys check out cookingwithnonna.com, she has a ton of recipes listed there, but you also do really fun videos on Instagram. Give us like your top 3 pasta dishes that if people were going to go either, even just eat or try to make, what are they?
I think you should always master basic things first. So a basic tomato and basil sauce
Mhm.
is life, and there's no reason to open a jar. It's really just, oil, garlic, tomatoes, salt, basil. That's it. A little bit of water. Don't put anything else in there, or else I'm going to show up at your house. It just doesn't. Leave it alone. Leave things alone. Um, my top pasta dish is probably like an amatriciana, because it's easier than people think it is. I think they hear the name and they get like intimidated right away, but it's really just sauteing like the guanciale or pancetta, if you can't find it, with the tomato and that's it. And cheese at the end. It couldn't be easier. It's
Mhm.
hard to mess up. I think a good like pasta al forno is essential. A good like big ziti or something
Mhm.
is always good, because that's like you can make it the day before. And then the beauty of chicken cutlets. Chicken cutlets are like a simple.
Oh my God, I saw your video on that too. It's like the all-purpose food in the field. Like you said with your sandwich at school, it gets slapped on some bread the next day. It's
They're good.
heated up for lunch.
They're good hot. They're good cold. They're good the next day. Like they're really, you can make ahead. You can meal prep.
Love it. Do you salt your water and oil your pasta water every
Never,
time or no?
you never oil the pasta water.
Never oil. See, there's such a debate in my family about this. My mom does, and I was like, I just feel like it wouldn't boil right. Like, why don't we and why do we?
No, you don't. I don't know I've never met your mother. I'm sure she's very nice, but you just don't do it, because what's going to happen is that it's going to coat the pasta, and then it's going to be very hard
For
for
it to
anything
absorb.
to adhere to the pasta.
I'm gonna go back and tell
And
her that.
and one of my biggest pet peeves in Italian cooking is that you should always finish a pasta in the sauce. You should never cook pasta, put it on a plate, and put sauce on top.
Oh no, no, no. You gotta like intermingle it.
You got to marry it all up. But if
Get a
you're trying
minute.
to marry it and then there's this like greasy, stuff on it, there's oil on it, it's not going to get married.
Wait, do you I'm like keeping this going forever. I promise this is my last couple of questions. We have this thing in my family, and I was told it was a Southern Italian thing. We call it medique, but it was like old bread, like stale bread, right? What do you call it? And when olive oil, hot pepper seed, and you sprinkle it on your pasta. And my dad would say it's because we never let any food go to waste. And in the old country, they would just use it as a topping. Do you do that too?
Beautiful. So that is the mudica is a dialectal term for mollica. So mollica in Italian is the crumbs of is breadcrumbs. So in Sicilian cooking, they use mudica, mollica, and it's fried breadcrumbs. Doctored up with you want to put some red
Hot
pepper.
pepper? Yeah. Uh huh.
Um, they do it a lot. They do it a lot for St. Joseph's Day, which is coming up, which is like a pasta with sardines and anchovies and fennel, and then they top it with the malika with the fried breadcrumbs, which is meant to represent the sawdust of St. Joseph. So it's also meant to replace cheese, because you're not supposed to put cheese on a dish like that. But I've met, in Italian America, it's like we're extra, right? So we put cheese in our fake cheese. I've seen it done. Like in Italian America, yeah, we do stuff like that. And I love it. I mean, it's particularly good on spaghetti and garlic and oil.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. A lot of people eat that on Christmas Eve. And in Body, we have a different St. Joseph pasta, which is just a pasta with anchovies and the fried breadcrumb on top.
Oh my God. You just validated like decades of my existence, because we were the only family that did this. And I was like, Dad, is this like a real thing? He's like, I swear it came from my grandparents, blah, blah, blah. But like to even hear the etymology of the word, this is just, it's so cool.
It's a very Sicilian thing.
Yeah. Well, there you go. The people of the earth, Rossella, what can we say? We got the good stuff in the South.
We do. The best stuff.
Oh my gosh. I wish I could talk to you forever. I feel so seen, and I feel like you have added so much value to this conversation between the recipe talk and the talk about your beautiful culture. So tell us again where we can find you both online and on social, so people can keep in touch.
So I'm at Rossella Rago on Instagram, 2 S's, 2 L's. I know there was never a keychain at Disney World with my name on it.
Same girl.
And I am Rossella's Cooking with Nonna on Facebook. We have a great Facebook presence with over 700,000 followers now, which is amazing. All the recipes are on cookingwithnonnas.com. And if you want to shop, if you want to get some gold hoops or a sweatsuit, go to bottegadellanonna.com. I know it's a horrible name, but it comes from my great grandmother's bottega in Italy. So
Oh, so cool. Love everything you're doing. And I'm so, so grateful for your time. Wish you nothing but the best, Rossella. Grazie.
so much fun. Thank you for having me.
And guys, thank you for watching and or listening. We had such a fun live crowd during the videotaping here. So thanks guys for all of your comments. It looks like we have a lot of like fans of Italy in the comment section. So thank you for hanging out with us if you did that. If not, if you're listening to this podcast when it comes out, please take a minute, leave a rating and review. That actually makes a huge difference in getting these shows out. And that's it. We'll see you next week on We Gotta Talk with more good stuff. Thanks, guys. See you soon.